Thanks everybody for coming. It's much more people I expected at almost 8 o'clock in the evening. But please stay, 20 minutes. I will manage in 20 minutes. So yeah, we'll talk today a little bit about the cloud. Shortly about myself. My name is Alex. I'm master this year, Magento master this year, and technical team lead in Comwrap. We mostly focusing on integration of Magento Cloud. By the way, related to the previous speech, was very nice. If you will use cloud, you will cover a lot of those performance issues automatically. That's not an advertisement. I'm not getting money for that. So yeah, question: how many of you work with the cloud? 3. You also? Cool. 4, 5. Cool. So basically, cloud, that's a contracting which is happening between like you, your client, and Adobe and Magento on another side. This means each party has their own responsibilities. We will talk shortly about them. So you're like a partner responsible for the Magento integrations, everything which is related to third-party code, to your custom development. So you're covering the needs of your customer. You're also responsible for the testing. That was a mistake that I made so many flying these points because I have no sticker. Okay. And also deployment, so you're responsible for the whole development process, what you're doing from the beginning of the project, including the testing and deployments, also the production deployment and so on. But also you have an Adobe here, who is responsible for Magento application itself. True, if you found the Magento bug, basically they have to fix it. Also for the all services and updates, also for the cloud infrastructure, for the monitoring, so for everything which is related to the hardware, the Adobe or Magento is responsible. Please don't forget about this. That's quite important because during our first project we mentioned that we're forgetting about this quite often and we're doing some work or trying to do some work that we should not do. Also, this responsibility is your customer or your client, basically, he have to know it. That's also quite important for the not starting to push you with some tickets and complain that you are doing your work badly or good, I don't know. So yeah, let's assume you got the cloud project. First you have the welcome intro call, and then after 1-2 weeks you have an onboarding that's happening between you, your client, and Adobe. They will give you all information about the project, where it's located, how to manage it, so the all credentials, connection links, and so on. And then you have a bit later the hardware handoff, so they need some time to prepare the hardware for you. The idea of such a call is that your client get all information related to Adobe, because he's basically getting the initial credentials to manage the project, and then he add in you or your company and your team members as workers. So I can tell you from our experience on all those calls where the customer are presented, they never listen. They just sitting there. Mostly we had never the case when they had some questions to you or to Adobe about the integration. They start to send you a question 1 or 2 months after. With the question, how can I get my Adobe URL or cloud backend URL, which basically they have and you don't have. Then the development phase is starting. It's taken like several months, but this numbers basically official like cloud numbers. It can be different. We had the fastest one within 1 month, including all those steps together. So again, as Adobe or Magento getting the money from those projects, they're really interested in that you're doing it successfully, doing it in time, and that they're willing and trying to help you as much as possible. And then you have before go live, you have a pre-launch calls. You have then go live process when you have Magento BI also included there, and you can directly use it. And then after some time, you get in the post health checks, which is basically only, again, we run approximately 8 projects. We had, I guess, only 1 time the post-check call, which really requires some modification and had some issues with performance, basically. Also, very important point, I get a lot of complaints about the support of cloud. And I can tell you, I mean, that's like kind of true. They can be slow because they don't know your priorities. They have a lot of projects which are running at the same time. And when you submit in the tickets for the support board, you just letting them know that, okay, there is some issue. They don't know how critical is this issue. For each project, for each Magento Cloud project, you have customer success manager and you have technical account manager. Those people are responsible for those projects, and if you see that the support is somehow slow, you can ping them directly, and they have to solve your issues. That's their job, and yeah, we never had an issue related to those guys. We had issue with support, that's still true. But those were quite fast. And they have a direct access to the support team and they can ping it. So that works quite good. So the first phase is you have an iteration environment available, and then when you get in the headware, you have all other environments which is staged in production. So first one, when you get the cloud, you see something like this in your cloud backend. I would never recommend start to do anything on this point or with this repository. Better start the development on your local environments and start work with the cloud only when you see something like this. I hope it's visible, not so good. Okay. So that's basically your structure of your cloud environment contain the production stage and integration branches. So yeah, let's jump to the development. So development workflow is quite simple. I guess it's quite standard for all cases, not only related to the cloud project. So we have a local development. Then you have your integration branches where you push in your code and testing and do all other stuff you want to do. And then you merge it like on the top to integration environment and to stage and production. And here is also mentioned the global master. The global master is available only on Pro plans. So cloud has two plans, it's a starter and a pro. Starter is super simple. You have only one production environment and one integration environment. For pro, you have production, which has a load balancer with your server behind those 3 nodes. The same for the staging. And then you have integration environments with up to 4 active branches. Right. And the global master, it's a very nice feature that's basically copy of your production environment. You still have to push code there, but it's mostly using for the debug on production. So you can configure the Xdebug there and try to troubleshoot the issues if you have some issues on production without affecting basically the production environment. So yeah, you have the cloud CLI available. That's kind of been Magento, but for the cloud. It's command line interface which will definitely help you in development. You will get all required information about your project with this interface. You have bunch list of commands. You don't need to even see them all. Quite a lot of. I mean, just know that they are there. My favorite one, it's an environment manage commands, which giving you on information about environments. You have managed them. You can deploy your code. So the deployment on cloud happening directly when you push into to any branch. It's directly starting the deployment. It's happening by using the Magento ECE tools. It is sometimes a pain if you have a big developers team. This means because if somebody pushed and then the second push and then the third pushed, and then you have big queue of the processes, they're not executing parallel. They're doing only one by one. This means if somebody deploying on developer, your production deployment is also blocked. Debugging on cloud or finding the logs on the cloud. There are a lot of locations where the logs can be stored, but it's super easy to remember. Basically, you have Magento logs. They're always there. You have the usual server logs, which is var log. You have logs related to the cloud projects. It's var log platform and then your project ID. And that's basically all. Yeah, that's basically all. One important point on production environment, you have, as I told before, you have 3 nodes. This means the logs are also tripled. So if you're looking for some logs and you cannot find them with on node number 1, you have to check also 2 another ones. All credentials to connect to the nodes you have in your cloud account. Yeah. What I wanted to tell. And yeah, also a nice fancy command for this cloud ECE tools is to get the logs. So you can, without SSH on the server itself, you can get most of the logs. That's not all of them, at least I found here, like this, let's say mail log is missing. Also, you get a not like all output. So if you need some debug, you still have to SSH. But that's very fancy if you want to like quick troubleshoot and try to find out what's going on. And yeah, that's cloud is a read-only file system. So you can forget about something. I will fix it quickly on production and nobody will mention it. Everybody will mention it because you have to redeploy if you want to fix something on production. From another point of view, you have the Xdebug available for all environments. This means you can like Xdebug on any of the servers. I would not recommend to enable it in production when production is live. I mean, when there's live customers, for that you have a global master. But yeah, that's something you can use for debugging. I guess not something that's only you can use for debugging. So the deployment. The deployment, as I told, triggering every time when you push in some code. The deployment is executed by its Magento ETE tools. It's contained of 3 different phases. It's build phase, deploy phase, and post-deploy phase. So build phase, basically, that's next one. The build phase is basically not putting your website to maintenance mode, executing outside of your environment. It's like generate all code and dependency injection configuration. Is checking for the config PHP file if it existed. We'll tell you why later. Then compressing the static files and deploy the files and preparing the Slack. So that's basically your code base. Then it's preparing the all services. On this step, your code base don't have any access to any services. This means if you put some custom scripts inside it, they will not work if they use, let's say, database, Elastic, Redis, whatever they need. So that's like pure PHP there. And then when those systems are prepared and deployed, then it's connecting basically your file base with the services. And then starting the deployed phase. That's a phase where your system is going not down, it's going to maintenance mode also for production. Then the system try to compile also the static content if it's not compiled before. Then it's basically doing setup upgrades. So there's like a most operations with mostly executing. Yes, can also install Magento if it's not installed, but it's happening only one time. And you don't need to worry about this if you're already on development phase. Yeah, there was also one. Then you have post-deploy phase, but that's up to you. You can put any basically script there if you want to. By default, it's executing the warming up the cache. I guess everybody knows that this one, that's a static content compilation. For the heavy systems like this one, it took approximately 1 hour to compile for all languages and all teams which are available in a system. You can imagine how long it will take if you will do it under the maintenance mode for your production environment. So production environment will be as minimum 1 hour off. And you can also see it there, so it will happen on deploy phase. That's this red one, that's how long your production will be off. This means you can move all this stuff to the build phase, which will be much faster because again it's executed on a cloud infrastructure, which is much more performant and much more faster. How to do it? You SSH to the requirement, to the like required server, mostly it's production. Then you execute an ETE tool command, which basically this command create the config PHP file. I guess everybody know what is inside of the config PHP file usually, right? That's the modules which are enabled or disabled. In this case, it's also adding inside additional information. And then you basically get in this file and pushing this file into the repository. The information which is inside is this one. It's a website, store views, enable the modules as a standard, locale, so all your languages, and also some dev section information. And I forgot here the teams. Why it's happening? Because as I told before, on build phase, Magento don't have access to the database. This means the ETE tools could not compile the static content because they cannot get information about your languages, about your stores, websites, and teams. If you create the config PHP like this, then the ETE tools has all this information. I can pre-compile the whole static content before, and this means your downtime will be much smaller. I would tell it's like for some of the project it's like 1 minute, maybe if you don't have a static content compilation there. Don't be surprised if your customer will call you and will tell something like this. Why I cannot change a language? I want to change language for this website. That's basically happened because it's in a config PHP. And one more important, never forget if you change something in stores, store views, websites, to reapply the changes inside of the config PHP. Because one time we made a migration from Magento 1 to Magento 2 and the structure were changed, and suddenly we mentioned that some users see orders from another website and the orders are placed to the wrong website. So that's because it's inconsistency between database and the config PHP. So that's have to be remembered. You can still speed up somehow the deployment. But if by whatever reason you don't want to put it to the build phase, we had such cases if using the custom templates, be careful. They not all support all available like processes that Magento is using, and we had a case when we could not put static content compilation without changing the theme into the build phase. So first of all, deploy only what you need. Let's say in this case for the backend users, we have only English-speaking backend users. We don't need all other 20 languages. This means we don't need to compile the static content for those other 20 languages. Or in this way, like custom theme, you can exclude theme from compilation totally if it's some theme for testing, whatever still in development. Yeah. Skip HTML magnification. You don't need it on the development phase in any case. It will speed up process really much. Skip static content deploy. I mean, who need a front end? Do you need a front end? I mean, I'm a backend developer. I don't really care what's happening on the front end. But yeah, if your website is headless, you can skip the static content compilation because you don't need it, and it will be much, much faster. You can also make static content compilation on demand. That's only for integration environment, but it speed up the process, and then the static content will be generated when you open the page. Also, with some additional configuration, you can warm up the pages, which is mostly used, just to make this like testing faster, for example. So in this case, like category pages, CMS pages by some patterns. So like even not all of them. Let's say which has categories, which has a URL key starting with car underscore, and then have something inside an endpoint HTML. In this way, you can warm up the cache automatically. It will be happening on post-deploy hooks. That's the speed changes. The first one is like a standard Magento, which you get in Magento Cloud. Last one is on demand. So really, that's worth it. Wherever which phase you are using, basically. The fast deployment, fast development. Patches. Magento Cloud has a special folder. It's called M2 hotfixes. And it basically holding the Magento patches. So if you found some Magento core bug which you want to fix, or you found the fix somewhere on Magento GitHub, what you have to do, you basically just make a GitHub patch and put it inside of M2 hotfixes directory. When the next deployment will happen, this patch will be applied automatically. That's what I always recommend. Don't override contribute. Why? Because first of all, you will spend much more time to overwriting the code. You need to find the good and nice way to do it. Second one, with next Magento update, when the code will be fixed, you will totally forget about your rewrite. I can tell you with a big project, when you're doing 20, 30 rewrites of some found features, you're totally forgetting about them, what you did, why you did that. If you're using the hotfixes, you can just remove them from a folder. They will be reverted automatically. You don't need like to be worried about. So Magento has a Fastly CDN. That's why I told about the performance before. That's what is doing the cloud super performant. So basically, Magento Fastly CDN is a like cache which Magento use out of box. That's why I like to use the cloud, because you don't need to pay for that. If you have like some multi-mandate website with different website URLs, you have to pay really a lot if you have a big traffic and also or something like this. In this case, that's coming already there out of box, fully covered. That's those features like full page cache, DDoS protection, web application firewall, image optimization, and a lot of other stuff. And Fastly has also, Magento has an extension which come in also inside, where you configure the Fastly, giving really a lot of possibilities to configure. I even don't know all of them. We basically discovered them only on second on this project. Like most fancy one or most interesting which I found, you can block traffic from different countries, so if you want from different IPs. You can have a basic authentication for different pages where you need them. You can use VTL snippets, which allow you basically to configure really differently your cloud environment. We had one case where we had the website, like static, like WordPress website, which is not on the cloud, but it's have to be connected to the cloud. And with this Fastly CDN, you can use the same URL, and with snippets, you can forward the traffic to your WordPress if some, let's say, pattern in the URL image. That was really nice for such project. Yeah. Then you have also the firewall, and you have also web hooks, but they're only covering the Fastly. That's not like a whole Magento web hooks. So yeah, from Magento ML, Magento Live EU, I got some information like about where the cloud moving, which new features they want to provide in 2020. So yeah, improving the command line interface with possibilities to integrate the automated testing. That way they're moving forward. Provide performance and robust integration environment, that basically two integration environments with 4 active branches on each. That's kind of give you more possibilities in development process. Improve auto-scaling if you have the peak times like Black Friday and so on, so the auto-scaling will be less painful. I just also talked to the guys who had some issues after auto-scaling with their website, which were fixed within several hours, but still was a little bit painful. And has support for PWA. Cloud support PWA out of box if you're using PWA Studio provided by Magento. If you use some third-party system, it's maybe a problem or issue to integrate it on the cloud. They're working that it's become possible in next year. Safe deployment rollbacks and data recovery, that's something they don't have at all currently. You cannot really control the deployment process except just to start it and then see what's happened. Entity tools to provide them more information about failed deployments, how you can fix it, so like get more information. Log reading tools, so there you have you will have much more better interfaces for get all logs from the cloud. And what I like more, the Adobe Sensei will be together with cloud, also with Magento Commerce. It will be free of charge if you're using Commerce Cloud, and it will become available from this year. From now on, I guess it's already the early birds program is already started, and you can participate on it. So yeah, and the last one for the whole day. I hope you see it. Is somebody see something strange here? Yeah, I will speed it up. It's an IDs. So the all IDs basically. So we didn't mention it. Our customer mentioned. He called us and asked us where the customer number 5 and 6, and then basically all others, because they expect that the customers are registered in a sort order. That's happening because ProPlan has 3 nodes and auto increment for the database set to 3 basically, so the all IDs are jumping in, which is okay, not the biggest issue, I would say, right? But then our tax officer called us and told where did we hide the invoices? Like, are we hiding something? I mean, in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, also Spain, it's not really legal. It's not legal. So yeah, I will save this. I will make your life easier. Just screenshot it. That's some page, like self-developed page, which fixed this problem. But yeah, that's something which I also expect in 2020 will be fixed. But that's not related on cloud itself. It's related on any Magento instance you will install wherever, and you will have auto increment set to 3 and had a load balancer inside. Yeah, that's all. Thank you for today.